Hi, I'm Dennis Phillips, and welcome to Everyday Reloading and Shooting. In this test, I'm going to be comparing two methods of load development. One is the best loads from ladder test, and the other is a step down from the max. In this best loads from the ladder test, here's a photo where I recently did a test with the Varget powder and this 73 grain ELD-Match bullet, and I had charge weights from 19.4 to 23.3, which was just below the maximum. And I found my best groups at 21.5 grains and 22.5 grains. And so what I'm doing here is I'm going just below the 21.5 and just above the 22.5. So I'm going from 21.4 to 22.7. And I'm thinking that somewhere in between these best loads, either just below or just above or somewhere in between, there's going to be a tight group in there and a node that I can load off of. In the step down from max load, what we do is we start off at the maximum charge weight and we move the decimal point over two places so that instead of 23.5, it's 0.235. And then we subtract 0.235 from the best charge weight, and that gives us 23.3. Then we subtract again 0.235, and that gives us 23. We subtract 0.235 again, that gives us 22.8. We subtract 0.235 again, and that gets us to 22.5. And 22.5 was my best charge weight over here when we shot this group, but I'm curious to see if there's going to be a difference between these two methods of load development. We're looking for one group in there that's going to group better than all the others. So which one of these methods is going to help us find that? Will it be the best loads method or the step down from max method? We will shoot these and find out. All right, welcome back to the Georgia Gun Club. Today I'm doing a test of two different load development methods. I have two targets here. Now, normally when you see me here at the range, I'll have a target like one of these, one or the other, and I'll shoot 50 rounds and measure those to determine a given criteria. But today I'll actually be shooting two of these, and so there will be two of these videos run together. What we're doing is we're looking at load development and how to develop your loads for your rifle. And we're using two different methods here. This will be best loads from the ladder test method, and this will be a step down from the maximum load development method. So there's a picture of a target here where we previously found our best groups at 21.5 and 22.5 grains of Varget powder with the 73 grain ELD-Match. So what we've done here is a ladder test is when you load your ammo in steps from lowest to highest. You can start with the overall charge weight from the lowest rated to the highest rated with various steps in between, and shoot those steps to measure how your groups perform in between. And sometimes you'll find a load at one of those charge weights. And so what I have done is I have gone in, and I've gone in just below 21.5 to 21.4 and just past 22.5 to 22.7. So I'm spanning 1.3 grains in charge weight between these five here. And we'll be shooting this one first to see if we can find a charge weight in there that groups really well, and then try to develop that. The other method is a step down from your maximum load. And so what you're doing is you're starting at your top charge weight and you're stepping down. But when you shoot them in reverse order, because you always want to start at your lowest charge weight and work your way up to make sure your rifle can handle that charge. All of the loads published in the Hornady manual, they say, are safe. A lot of people exceed those, which is never recommended, and I certainly don't recommend it, and I don't exceed those, although some people will say that they do. And if you look at some other reloading manuals, you may find that they have higher charge weights and higher velocities for that same round and powder. So anyway, we're going to run these two tests today. So I'm going to shoot this ladder test first. And what we have over here, I have all of the magazines laid out already. So the ones that are marked with the red L, that's for the ladder test method. And I have the grain weights marked, and all of the magazines are numbered in order. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then for where we're doing the match down, I've labeled that with an M, those magazines, and those are all in numerical order: 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I've numbered the target the same way. And before I start shooting, I will tape this warming target to the bottom of the first target, and I will shoot this warming group. It's a different load, different round altogether, but I'll shoot these to prime the barrel and get it ready. We're shooting with a clean barrel, so let's get going and see how we do. All right, let's bring them in and see how we did. And here we're stringing vertically. I didn't adjust the scope on any of these groups. The warming shot, the warming barrel or fouling group that I shot, grouped 4 out of 5 are pretty tight there with one flyer off to the side, so shooting a little bit to the left. At 21.4, one of my better loads was 21.5, and here these aren't so great. These are all look like they're grouping over an inch. This is right at an inch, but we've got a flyer here, and most of these have been grouping kind of low and to the left, and so these are pretty tight with a flyer here, pretty tight 3 here, but still pretty spread out, somewhat spread out, spread out, spread out. So don't know that any of these are the loads that we're looking for. So we're going to go ahead and shoot our next group, and then we will look at both of them. We'll analyze them, take them home, measure them, and get back to you with the results. Okay, here we're going to be demonstrating the step down from max load for load development. So we're only stepping up in charge weight 1 grain from 22.5 to 23.5. And I've heard a lot of shooters say that oftentimes they'll find their maximum charge weight within a grain or so of the maximum. So we'll be shooting higher velocities than in the previous target, although one of these will be similar. This will be similar to the highest load in the previous target, but we'll shoot these, record them, and measure them and compare them and see how they do. Shooting at 100 yards. All right, some of these are pretty interesting, so let's bring them in and take a look. All right, these groupings were better than the last test. Pretty tight here, just right at an inch. 4 out of 5 here you could cover with your fingernail, pretty much thumbnail, and a flyer there. I didn't make any adjustments to the scope while I was shooting, so all of these were shooting a little bit low. There's a pretty tight group there and there at 22.8. 23 is pretty tight. 23.3 is starting to scatter a little, but some of these are clustering together pretty well. 23 and a half, you've got 4 out of 5 that are really tight right here with one flyer. Now I know that was a bad trigger pull because I remember taking that shot. The same thing with this one here. I know that was a bad trigger pull as well. So anyway, these are kind of clustered together pretty good. So anyway, we'll take them home, measure them, and we'll compare them to the ladder test method. These are the results back from the ladder test. As previously mentioned, shooting the 73 grain ELD-Match bullet with Varget powder, we found pretty decent loads at 21.5 and 22.5 grains. So what we did is we loaded the next target just below 21.5 at 21.4 and just above 22.5 at 22.7. These did not group well at all. I was very disappointed and very surprised that we didn't find a load here. We had groups of 147, 159, 184, 126. The best loads that we had were in the middle at 22 grains, where we had a 110 and a 128 group. These three group fairly well together, and these group fairly well together as well. And the rest of the targets did not group well either. We had 152, 112, and down here on the last row we had 161, and the best group of the day was at 94. We had 1 out of 10 that was under an inch for all of these, which does not speak well for this particular set of targets. So then if we go to the step down from maximum load development, we had a little better results here. So what we did is we started at the top load at 23.5, and then we stepped down to 23.3, 23, 22.8, and 22.5. And so we had groups at 22.5 of 9.3 and 111. At 22.8, we had groups of 76 and 82. At 23 grains, we had groups of 0.79 and 0.78. At 23.3, we had groups of 101 and 0.41. At 23.5, we had groups of 148 and 146. So on average, 22.5 averaged 102 with the best 4 out of 5 at 0.54. 22.8 averaged 0.79 for extreme spread and 0.61. If you average those two together, that gives you a score of 70. Then at 23 grains, we had an extreme spread average of 79 with the best 4 out of 5 at 0.60. Very similar to the group above it, and that scored a 70. And then at 23.3, we had an extreme spread average of 0.97 and a best 4 out of 5 at 0.43, also averaging a score of 0.70. And then at 23 grains, we had an extreme spread of 101 with a best 4 out of 5 at 0.44, and an extreme spread of 0.92 with a best 4 out of 5 at 0.41. If you look at these two, they shot very similarly. Each of these had a flyer, which threw the group off. But if you look at the best 4 out of 5, that's in the fours. So here we're at 0.44 and here we're at 0.41. Although when you average that with the 101 and the 92, you end up with a score of 70, which is just like the groups above it. Although the extreme spreads and the best 4 out of 5 were probably better here at 23.3. So what we might do is we might try this again at maybe 23.3, 23.4, 23.2, maybe see how that does. Or maybe just try shooting some more at this 23.3 because they did group together pretty well for the best 4 out of 5, and they were right in the same area as well. You see the distance from the target, very similar groups. So I think that's a load that we may try to develop there at 23.3. And overall, 6 out of 10 were under an inch. So the step down from max load development method seemed to give us our best results. So we'll continue to work on these, and thanks for watching. So if you have any ideas or thoughts about this video, please feel free to leave a comment below. Or if there's anything that you would like to see in the future, please let me know that. I always try to interact with everyone who comments. And I hope that you will like and share this with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.